Hello, prep class of 2025. This is Mrs. Fellens, and I am here to welcome you to a brief video about the upcoming math and science placement exam that we have for you on May 15th. I am joined today by Mr. Marks, who is the head of our math department, and Mrs. Murati, who is the head of our science department, who will give you some additional information about the exam. Just a reminder, it is going to be on Saturday, May 15th, and you have two different test times to choose from. There will be one at 10 a.m. and another one at 1 p.m. So we will ask you to sign up for one of those exams. It will be here at Scranton Prep, and further details about arrival and locations will be forthcoming prior to the exam. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Marks and have him provide some additional information about the math exam. Hi, Mr. Marks.
Hello, Mrs. Fellens. Thank you for having us here to share some information about our upcoming placement exam.
Well, thank you for joining us. I was hoping you could give us a little information about why we offer a math placement exam here at Prep.
Sure. So a few years ago, probably about 5 or 6 years at this point, we started offering a placement exam to all freshmen who would like to take it, given the fact that virtually every student that was enrolling in our freshman class has had some algebra. And since our pool of schools from which we pull students was becoming so large, everybody was coming in with a different experience of Algebra 1. What some schools were considering Algebra 1 may have been maybe the first 3 chapters of the Algebra 1 curriculum that we would have here at Prep. And another school maybe was covering the first 8 chapters of what we would consider Algebra 1. So, you know, we needed a way to sort of sort out where students were with their experience of Algebra 1 so that they could have the best and most challenging course that we could offer them here as their first math course in high school. So we created 3 different levels: Algebra 1, which covers the basics of Algebra 1 curriculum. There's Intermediate Algebra, which starts a few chapters into the Algebra 1 curriculum. And then at the end of that, we cover in some greater detail some of the Algebra 2 topics that we may have started in Algebra 1, but we could go into a little bit greater depth because we have the time. And we often add a unit on probability to that course. And then we have the Algebra 2 Accelerated course, which would assume then that a student has had a full year of Algebra 1 and picks up with, you know, continuing the curriculum into Algebra 2.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, related to the test a little bit more specifically, how do you plan on evaluating the students for placement? I know you touched on that a bit in that last answer, but if you could provide just a little bit more information.
Sure. So the exam, I think the most important thing to remember is that the exam is not an evaluation of a student's abilities to do algebra. There are many students, and I was one of them, coming from 8th grade. I had only had pre-algebra. And there's nothing wrong with taking Algebra 1 as a freshman in high school. That's sort of what should happen. It's not an evaluation of your ability to do math well. It's an evaluation of how much algebra you've covered already and how much algebra you know coming into the school. So the test, the placement exam, is an evaluation of that. We try to group the topics that we cover on the exam into categories that we feel like, okay, every algebra course will cover this. Those that go a little bit farther will cover this, and those that go perhaps through the whole curriculum will cover this. And those lists of topics, I believe, are going to be shared in the email or in the pamphlet that you will get regarding the exam. So based on how well you do on each of those sections will determine, from our standpoint, from the criteria that we've established over years and years of giving this exam, where students will succeed in their freshman year. It's not, again, any indication that you can't do algebra, that you're not ready for algebra. It's nothing like that. It's just a matter of how much of our Algebra 1 curriculum have you covered prior to joining us.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really helpful and kind of leads into my next question. What happens, let's say I take the exam and I don't get into the accelerated class or even the intermediate class? Can you talk about sort of how that follows you down the road?
Sure. So the path that we have designed for our four-year curriculum, our four-year mathematics curriculum, allows students the opportunity to enter the accelerated track even after their freshman year. So it's not like if you don't make it in to accelerated algebra 2 this year, you're done. Students who are placed in intermediate algebra will have the opportunity to move up into accelerated geometry for their sophomore year. Students who are in algebra 1, who maintain, significantly high averages throughout the year and demonstrate to their teachers that they have grasped the material, that they have the work ethic that would support them moving into the accelerated program, have that opportunity to move up into accelerated geometry. We typically, from freshman year, we have 1 accelerated class. To sophomore year, expand that to 2. So more or less from intermediate algebra and algebra 1, we're moving up an entire section of students in the freshman class into the accelerated program for sophomore year.
That's great. That's really helpful information. I'm sorry, did you have more to add there?
I was just going to say then those in accelerated algebra could finish their 4 years here taking a full year of calculus. Those who aren't in the accelerated program will still end their time here with a semester of calculus. So pretty much before you leave our doors, before you walk across that graduation stage, you have had some calculus, which is something we're very proud of, and I think something that colleges find very attractive.
That was a great add-on. I'm glad I
you're
didn't
welcome.
totally talk over you there. Sorry. My last question. What happens to the student who says, well, I'm not taking Algebra 1, or I didn't get that far in Algebra 1 this year. I'm not going to take this test. Where do they land next year?
That's fine. Next year, you will be in Algebra 1 with the majority of our freshman class. The large majority of students who are entering our building as freshmen take Algebra 1. And it's a great way to have a strong foundation. Even if you have the slightest little bit, hey, great. You'll be comfortable for the first 2 weeks of school. But no, Algebra 1 is our go-to course, is our foundational course. And from there, you're setting yourself up for a good 4 years of math here at Prep.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that covers most of the questions that our parents and students will have about the algebra portion of the exam and placement there. So thank you, Mr. Marks.
You're welcome.
I think I'm going to turn it over now to Mrs. Marati and ask her a few questions about our new science placement exam that will be a part of these exams on May 15th. So thank you, Mrs. Marati, for being with us.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about our new science curriculum.
We've been very generous too in writing a brochure and then appearing in a video. So the first thing I want to ask you is similar to Mr. Marks, but this is a new class that you're introducing for our freshmen. Can you talk just briefly about why you've decided to add this accelerated chemistry course for our freshmen?
Well, in reworking the entire science curriculum, the incoming freshmen are going to have the opportunity to see the new curriculum through from the beginning of their freshman year all the way to their senior year. And the science department as a whole felt the need to provide a more rigorous chemistry experience for their incoming freshmen. That will provide later on in junior and senior year a little more flexibility in the science courses they could take, possibly taking more than one, or getting physics and chemistry and maybe an AP science course later on. The purpose of accelerated Chem 1 specifically is to give students who have a little stronger background in science an opportunity to just build on the skills that they already have and push them just a little bit farther in terms of the content that will prepare them for their future scientific endeavors.
Great, thank you. I think it's really exciting, and I think a lot of our students are excited about this new opportunity. So again, similar to some of the questions I asked Mr. Marks, how do you plan on evaluating students for this placement?
Well, the placement test itself will just consist of just some general questions. It is not a content specific test, so it's not going to measure how much earth science you had or how much life science you've had. There won't be specific questions. What we will be looking at is the ability to manipulate algebraic equations. We'll be looking at some problem solving skills, some knowledge of your scientific method and the things used in that environment, and the interpretation of data and graphical analysis.
Thank you. And I think we also mentioned this, the study topics will be included in this email, so there'll be more details with that as well. Now, what happens if a student takes this exam in the hopes of getting into accelerated Chem 1 and they are placed in Chemistry 1? What can that student expect going forward?
Well, students who are not placed in accelerated Chem 1 will have the same the same options available to them sophomore, junior, and senior year, provided that their grades are good and they keep working. This is not to exclude anyone from doing or achieving anything. The purpose of this is strictly to make sure we can take those students, build on what they know, fill in gaps where they exist, and ensure that their future science classes will, they will have some success, with chemistry being a foundation behind a lot of the science courses that we offer here.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And then same question that I asked Mr. Marks, for students who choose to not take the math science placement exam, what can they expect for their science curriculum freshman year?
They will be in Chem 1. They'll just be in Chem 1, and they will have the equivalent of a basic chemistry course in terms of content. It's just that, moving forward, every student will still take the same biology course. So whether they're in accelerated Chem 1 or Chem 1, they're not going to be, there's not going to be any, difference in what they take sophomore year.
I think that's really helpful for students to know. They're not locked into one path here in either discipline. So I appreciate both of you kind of detailing that. Thank you. So just kind of to wrap it up generally for our students, some questions that we anticipate that we just want to provide for you here in the video. The first question is, can I just take one of these tests? The answer is no. This is one combined test. So at the 10 a.m. and at the 11 a.m. or the 1 p.m., it will be a combined algebra and science placement exam. So the students will sit for both if they've registered for this exam. Another question may be, is it possible for me to be placed in accelerated math and not accelerated science, or the reverse? Absolutely. The outcomes will be different depending on the student and their ability levels. Students have asked us about a makeup exam, and I would just say please to call our office to get on a list if you need to take a makeup exam if May 15th you are not available for some reason. So just one more time, I'll let you know about the registration information. You can register here in this email, or you can call our office at 941-7737 extension 141 and register over the phone. The study topics are provided in this email, and they're also in the packet that you should have received or will be receiving shortly. But definitely call us if you have any questions or anything that you need prior to the exam. We're looking forward to seeing you for this event and the many events that we have coming up in the spring and summer. So good luck to all of you. We're so excited for you to join the prep family, and we thank you for watching this video today. Take care, and thank you, Mr. Marks, and thank you, Mrs. Marati, for your time today.